Ooh, that looks tasty. Support for Boards and Brews comes from Sovereignty. Play board games in a 3D environment on any device. Play smarter. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another episode of Boards and Brews, and today I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the power behind the Dice Tower, Corey Thompson, and I am so thrilled that the real power of the Dice Tower is here with me today. And so to jump right in with the rapid fire questions that we always start with. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
All right. Who the crap are you? What is your outlet? What is your shtick? And how and why did you get started in the board game media game, as it were?
Well, I'm Corey Thompson. I started by doing news for the Dice Tower, written news, and it was dicetowernews.com. And from there, I continued the Dice Tower News audio podcast. So it's now called Dice Tower Now. And it's a weekly half-hour news podcast on Mondays. So, and if you think I'm the power behind the Dice Tower, you are sadly mistaken. There's about 50 people or more going on Dice Tower, and I'm probably at about 52 on the
Oh, I,
totem
I, I
pole.
don't think. I don't think you're the power. I know.
You know it. Just I'm taking notes here. So, if
Yeah, I
something
mean,
bothers me, then it's just going to disappear.
well, because once this goes out onto the internet, it's true.
That's true. That's true. I also do Dice Tower Dish, which is an interview website where I take designers in the industry. I take them out to a nice meal and basically fail to interview them in any sort of coherent way. We just ramble about anything. And then I publish it. So it's dicetowerdish.com.
So it's an excuse for you to have nice dinner with fun
It
people.
really is. And I've gone to some really nice dinners with some really fun people. So it's a complete excuse.
So how did you get started actually doing what was the
Oh, wow.
how did you get into the monolith that is the I'm putting air quotes for people just listening, the Dice Tower. I don't know why it's air. I guess it is the Dice Tower. I don't need the air quotes, but
It is the Dice Tower. I really am Dice Tower. I've got a real email address. It's Corey@dicetower.com.
uh-oh,
I
you're
know,
about to
I
get
know.
hit with a lot of requests for dinner.
That's fine. I'll take you up on it. I've I've got a real Dice Tower guy who's the cartoon Dice Guy. Those are fantastic. How did I get started? I started writing for Dice Tower News about 5 years ago because I met a lot of the Dice Tower people at probably Dice Tower East, the convention in Orlando. Could also be at the first Dice Tower cruise. I started going to both of those at about the same time and just started writing back and forth and talking with them and asked if they needed help with anything. And I was always interested in the news behind the journalistic side of it. So I just started doing it and nobody's told me to stop yet. I'm not sure they know I'm doing it, but they haven't told me to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I will say one of the things that I do appreciate is there's actually not a lot of just straight up news podcasts for board games, and because most of us, think we're funny and we have to go blather on and on and on about our opinions, but there's not a ton of them. I have several podcasts I listen to, but it's the only one that's dedicated to the news. We all like to
Yeah,
drop in little tidbits here and there, but
yeah, yeah. Um, I felt the same. My favorite parts of a lot of the podcasts were always, what did you play this week? What's new? What's exciting? What happened out in the world? So I decided I just wanted to do that. So once a week on Mondays, you can catch the news with myself and my co-host Barry Figram, and we're just some weeks are heavy on news and some weeks are light, and we're pretty goofy in between.
all right. So let's jumping on into it, because a good segue you gave me was that you like hearing what people have been
Uh
playing. Well, are you in luck? Because the next question is, what have you been playing recently? And then what's on your table now? And that can be different things. It could be you got something so that you're
Yeah.
learning or whatever, but what have you been playing recently? We'll start with that one.
Oh, playing recently. Uh, well, I just got back from conventions, and I know that's question three. So a lot of the games that I brought back that I've been playing a lot are there's Regicide and Shipwreck Arcana. I've been having a really good time with. They're not new games, but they were under the radar enough and really interesting. Regicide is a cooperative fantasy themed card game that you can play with a standard deck of cards. It's really fun. It's a hard co-op, but just an absolute blast. And there's an app that'll help you run through it. And then Shipwreck Arcana is kind of like weird math logic puzzles turned into a deduction cooperative board game. And I'm having so much fun with those two.
Yeah, and so the and now Regicide I've heard about a lot. I mean, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, that they really got more press than they probably wanted with the
just
recent.
recently for some reason.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not. I don't even want to mention the company. I don't want to give them that press, but some recent press where one of
Right.
the people that distributes them has, we'll call them a bad actor lately. Is how I will word that and move on. But
Right.
there's been a significant amount of buzz about that game before that for a while. Like it just kind of
It
burbles up. You're like, have you tried this game? You can play with a deck of cards. You know, just
it hit the Board Game Geek hotness at in the top 5, and it stayed there for several weeks. So I saw it just because it was on the hotness and wanted to know what was up with this game. I'd never heard of it, and it was a successful Kickstarter where they sold it at a deck of standard deck of cards, but it had great art and this new way to play. And so I started following it once I saw it on the hotness.
yeah, and it's really, and that's impressive that it stayed on the hotness because it's
Yeah,
free rules and just a deck of cards.
it's true.
Like, I mean that to me I think is the most impressive thing about it, like that they managed to do that. But
I would love to get their Kickstarter deck if I could get a hold of it somewhere, but I have not seen copies anywhere.
well, they have to be looking at a reprint of that at some point. Like that
Yeah,
has to be coming around, especially with all the buzz once they break their they're able to break their contract legally and all that stuff. I
oh
bet
sure.
it's coming. But if you're saying you wish, I feel like you're more clued into the news on this stuff than I am. So
Well, I'm I'm clued in on the news. I'm retired. I have nothing but time. I'm eccentric and I have no impulse control. So if it's out there, I will get it.
so you are the board game publisher's dream.
I pretty much am. If someone just talks sweet to me and buys me a cookie, I'll pretty much buy every game they make.
So you just need to hope Adam Pooch doesn't hear this. He's just, oh well, it's only $19,000 worth of Kingdom Death Monster, but here's a cookie.
It's got to be a
Sold.
good cookie. But I'll be
So
right there.
yeah, so for me, I've been playing not as much lately as because we were chatting before. I'm also a stage actor, and so we're in production of a show that I'm also producing. But I have gotten a little bit of stuff to the table, and one of them is a game that delivered on Kickstarter, I don't know, maybe a year ago with its expansion
Mhm.
called Arcane Alley. And
Oh, okay.
that came about because right here, my wife and I went through my whole collection and looked around. She said, here are the games that I would be interested in trying. And if she didn't put it on the list or didn't say, oh, I like that one, but we've played it recently, and I didn't love it, it went out.
Wow.
But we wound up making, I don't know if you actually read it. Yeah, this lovely little list of stuff that she wants to try.
Nice.
And so we've very, very slowly been kind of going through and checking some off. So we pulled out Arcane Alley, which is this clever set collection game
Hmm.
where it's the premise is each player is a magical eBay seller, I guess. And after all like the real stuff goes out, you're left with the dregs. And the dregs you're gonna sell on your own like Etsy shop or whatever's going on. But you got to do it before the inspector comes and collects all the stuff.
Wow.
And so that's each round, the end of each round. So you have this 3 by 3 grid of cards that you have that are face down. And each round, you're going to draw a card into your hand and then play a card from your hand face up into your little, they call it the storehouse, the 3 by 3 grid. And then you're replacing the face down card. And sometimes when you flip that over, it has an effect. Sometimes it doesn't. Then it goes into the discard. And of course, someone else is going to draw it from the discard or the top of the deck. And you're trying to get these sets. So when you get the sets, you sell them. And of course, they have some kind of effect that they're going to do. And you're managing your own infamy as people find out you're doing you're selling you're Corey selling the Dice Tower swag out the back of his car, which he's not supposed to be doing.
You're
But
not
we all
supposed to
know,
talk about that.
yeah. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
under the table.
Um,
Yours is going in the mail tomorrow.
Woohoo! And so, um, and so that's how you kind of manage. You're playing through 3 rounds of when someone's flipped over all of their cards, the round's going to end. It's very quick, very, very simple. But what's kind of neat about it is those 9 cards you put out have nothing to do with anything because you're replacing them. And so you're
Oh,
building your sets in your hand, then trying to position them on the board. And so it's very, very clever, has this adorable art. It's,
it's
all
pretty
very,
cool.
yeah, it's very, very, very cute. So there's that one. And then the one that we're actually going to be talking about later, Land vs. Sea, which
Yeah.
is just, well, just briefly. So it's a game which a la Carcassonne style game, and you're laying down
Hmm.
these hex-based tiles, and they are double-sided, and you're either playing the sea, and you're trying to build these tiny little or big seas that are completely surrounded by land, or you're playing the land and trying to make these islands all over the place. And the bigger the island, the more points you get. And then there's coral that you can connect for more points, and mountains you can connect for more points, and there's caravans. And then if you play 3 players, one person is the cartographer, and they just have all kinds of weird rules that they're going around where they're just trying to make things look pretty and then mess up everybody else.
Oh,
And so
cool.
playing a lot of that one as
Yeah,
well.
you told me about it. I was looking into it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's
I haven't played it.
oh my gosh, you're blowing it. How is there a game you haven't played? This is
There's not
unacceptable.
many I haven't played.
Apparently, I picked the one. Um,
That's it. Now I have to get one.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll spoil it later on a little bit. That I fully recommend it. It's very. I really like it a lot. Like it's. Well, I'll save this next little bit for later. I don't want to spoil it too much.
Okay.
And so, what do you have on your table right now? Maybe that's the next thing to go, or you're learning, or
Uh,
whatever.
my table's kind of a mess because I get a lot of games shipped in just because I have no impulse control. So there's all sorts of new stuff sitting on the table. There's Theros, there's a new one from Spielworks. Cocopelli, new one from Steffenfeld. Mini Rogue, little 1 or 2 player roguelike dice game. The expansion to Glenmore 2, Highland Games.
Is that
I've
the
got
one that Johnny Pack worked on?
Yeah, that's Johnny's on one of those, and Stefan Dora also, I believe. The new Marvel United X-Men, the new Gravwell, Crew 2. I finally got my English copy because my German copy's fallen apart. Those are all
Yep.
sitting on the table, but I've played a number of them too. The Crew 2 I've played a lot. Glenmore I've played a lot. Cocopelli we played today. Um, there's just piles sitting all over the place.
Yeah. So I just got. My table did look like that because with everything going on, and then we were cleaning the house, and there was just
Mhm.
stuff. I don't get nearly as much stuff coming in as you do, but it comes in decent regularly, and of course, it always comes in spurts. Like it's always
Oh
they
yeah,
always all show up at the same time, and often I will be told something's being sent to me, and I will forget, and so I have no idea what's
it's like
showing up.
Christmas every day.
Yeah, sometimes it is, and then sometimes like Christmas needs to stop.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't do it. So I had this huge stack, but I finally got it cleared off.
cool.
And so what I have on my table right now, I haven't been playing it, but I've been painting it.
Oh, okay.
And this was a game that a dungeon crawl that I played years ago. I liked it, and then I sold it. Now I always said, like, I shouldn't have done that, but I
Hmm.
needed the space, and I was like, And ever since then, I was like, I wish I had it. And then I just saw on Facebook someone selling it and the 2 big box expansions, and you can see where this is going for a song. And I said, "It's my birthday coming up." Yes. And, it was going to be
Dying of anticipation. What's the game?
yep,
What's the
and so it
game?
was just being shipped from Massachusetts all the way here to California. It was going to cost a ton, but no, it wasn't that bad, and somehow
Nice.
it showed up in 2 days. He got the teleporter. I don't understand, but it is Galaxy Defenders.
Very nice.
And this is the not really well known. It's the precursor to Sword and Sorcery, which is the
Right.
more,
The Ares
the
project. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's pretty much, and I've played Sword and Sorcery also. It's pretty much the same game. It's
Mm.
just less fiddly, and it's easier to set up. And
Sword and Sorcery has an awful lot of things to keep track of, but that story is really good. The campaign
yeah,
is great.
Yeah, and so this one is a little bit less story, but it's solid story. And so my buddy, who people who listen to the channel and a lot of reviews know as Canadian Kev, he does voiceover for me every now and then. It's shocker he lives in Canada. Um, but last time he was out here for a couple weeks, we bought it and we played through the whole campaign.
Nice.
And then it was going, but now I have two more campaigns, and it's now winter in Canada, and they're letting him across the border, and so he
Uh-oh.
desperately wants to leave Canada for a few weeks in the winter. So now I gotta get the heroes painted so we can play through a couple of these other big boxes because now I have all these boxes of
That's
plastic and
fantastic.
cardboard. So that's what's on my table right now. Now, before that, are you a dungeon crawler kind of guy?
Yeah, actually, I've been playing board games since probably the 70s. And the big thing that I was always trying to seek out when I was a kid was the board game version of D&D. I was always looking for dungeon crawlers, fantasy, role-playing board games. And there were very few back then. So I get excited whenever I see one come along, and I've got some of the stranger ones. So Dungeon from the 70s was a big hit, and there was, Dark Tower, and there was Electronic Dungeons and Dragons, and a whole bunch of ones like that.
Yeah, and
But
so did I see on Facebook that you got to try the new Dark Tower and the advanced copy?
I've played Return to Dark Tower now, I think 4 times in various stages of development. And in this last trip that I did, I played I think it is the final copy, short of a few little bug fixes on the app, and it was great. I had such a good time with it. We played in co-op mode because you can play in different modes, and it was really fun. The tower is an amazing piece of hardware. I can't wait until it delivers. It was a blast.
Yeah, my buddy of mine who's not we'll play some games, but he's not a gamer, but he knows that I am, and he sent me a message once. He said, "Dark Tower, I still have the original in my house when I was a kid," and then he backed it. For one of the first, well, he's backed a lot of like
I know a
photography
lot of
Kickstarter.
people who
Yep,
back Dark Tower just because of the nostalgia factor.
yep,
Not into games at all, but it's Dark Tower, so I'm
yep.
backing it.
And I was like, I will absolutely play it with you. And then that was like 12
It
years
was
ago that
really
that thing
good.
was backed.
Honestly, the original one was not that great.
And
But it
so, but
has a nostalgic thing.
he told me that he said, I think it's coming soon. And I just looked at him. I said, no, it's not. He's like, no, I think it's going to be on the boat. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's sooner than you'd expect, but yeah, it's going to be a couple months still.
Yeah, which will be great because I know he is still excited about it. And
Because
he's
you
not a
know we.
game nerd like we are, you know.
What are you calling me? Hmm?
What I think the pot's calling the kettle black here. I think is what's going on. Um,
I've,
actually, what I've learned to do is I've stopped reading in-depth updates on Kickstarters that I back for the most part.
yeah,
Like I'll glance. Like, are you telling me that they burned down, or are you telling me it's on the boat, or that there's a pledge manager? Otherwise, I'm not going to look because I'm going to get
be
excited.
careful because I started ignoring the letters that come constantly without just a quick glance, and I started missing some of the Kickstarters. So I actually started getting some of the nasty letters that they're not going to mail me a Kickstarter until I finish this little thing or send this money or something like that.
Well, that
So
is just
I've
unacceptable.
missed a few.
Oh, yeah.
I
So I
know.
did not that bad, not that bad. But what did it to me was Oathsworn,
There were so many
which I'm
emails.
so excited about. But and every one is like a novel. There's all this story, and I
Yeah,
refuse to be excited until that thing is waiting on the boat off the coast of Los Angeles, where it's going to be for 3 weeks. Like,
that's yeah, yeah.
when we're
And we
there,
have such a good time with shipping nowadays. Things are just zipping across the ocean. They're just hopping from China. I mean,
I,
takes no time at all.
it must be. I can't imagine being a publisher now. I have a
Um,
friend of mine. Bernie Lynn, who was on that panel with us.
yeah.
Um, like they have just been 6 months just trying to get the game made at
Oh,
the factory, and they're only making 500 copies. But
the
it just there's
lines to get a maid are incredible, and then the
yep,
lines to get a boat are incredible. A lot of people who reserved a boat now are told you don't have it anymore.
yep.
The newest thing I heard is a lot of the big companies are buying their own boats. They're not relying on normal traffic anymore. They're just buying boats.
Oh, that you'll like this. So, Johnny Pack, who we mentioned earlier, was telling me
Mhm.
that Fantasia Games, where he does a lot of development for
Right,
Endless Winter and whatever they got coming down the pipe next.
right.
They got an email saying, "Do you want to purchase a container?" Good, and they thought, well, maybe we do, like maybe, and so they got him to open the email, and it was for Tupperware dice containers that were this big.
Get two.
And it just totally he's like, "Yep, that got every single one of us."
Yeah. Well, it's got to be so tough for the Kickstarter people, especially because when they start their Kickstarter campaign, the containers were around $5,000. At the end of their campaign, they're $40,000. So your shipping cost has gone up tenfold just in the course of a single campaign.
Yeah, and for some,
And
and I know, like, again, they'll talk about, Dead Alive Games, like, they're, with the Bernie and Omicron Protocol, like, I mean, their whole campaign raised $35,000 or something, and to
yeah,
be fair, they don't need a whole container, and so they're actually he told me that, they're actually in a little bit of a little bit better shape because they're just trying to squeeze in and share
oh yeah,
with somebody, so that apparently is a little bit more price effective when it's like,
little
"Well, we
lenient.
have literally space for half a pallet. All right, come on in, Corey. Put your Dice Tower swag in here. Your
Yeah,
quarter of a container of shirts."
socks, nothing but socks.
Oh man, to be fair, I would absolutely wear a pair of Dice Tower socks with all the little dice characters on it. I'd
Oh,
wear
that
that.
would be great. I would wear that too.
Yeah, like you
Mm.
can sell that when comes time for a bonus. You can pitch that to Tom. Like, I know you're saying no
It's
bonus,
on the
but
list. It's on the
what if
list.
I tell you socks?
Socks.
All right, but let's jump into our actual topic. And the reason I wanted to talk about this one with you,
I
wherever
think
we're
we were
talking
leading
about,
into it even.
yeah, right, well, we're talking about conventions.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to talk with Corey specifically about conventions is because he has been to all of the conventions lately. That's not true. He didn't go to Origins, but he's
No.
been to a
I've been to
local
some of the conventions lately.
some of the conventions that some people have not been to.
Yes.
Uh, but he's been. We've actually just met at Pacificon, which is a small con in
Right.
the San Francisco Bay Area, and then he went from there to Dice Tower West, no Dice Tower Retreat,
That's our retreat. Yeah.
which
In
is
Miami.
in Miami, Florida,
Right.
which is I think is a little bigger than Pacificon, right?
Actually, the retreat is pretty small. The retreat, the goal of it was just to bring out an enormous library and only play games. So it's about 200, 300 people, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So not that big, but a tremendous ratio of just tables to players to board games available. Their library is a good, 1,500 games.
Yeah,
And they have access to a lot of very new ones. So and there's a lot of industry people who go to the Dice Tower things. And so a lot of very new games were there, including Return to Dark Tower was there because Justin Jacobson, the owner of Restoration Games, was there. So that was
and
fun.
then yeah, and then from there straight to Gen Con, which is
They were back to back.
smaller than Essen, but is bigger than everybody else. I think that's a fair statement. Yeah,
Yeah, Gen Con is the largest US convention. Normally, Gen Con has an attendance of 70 to 75,000 people.
which is
And
just
this was a weird Gen Con. We didn't know what to expect at this Gen Con. And I was working Gen Con, so I was working the Dice Tower booth at Gen Con. But from what I read, the total was about 30,000. So about half.
and that's I mean that is a lot of people.
It
Gosh, that's a lot of
is,
people.
but it didn't feel like it. It's hard to describe. Normally at Gen Con, because I've been to several Gen Cons, and normally at Gen Con in the exhibitor hall, it's a big grid of passageways with cubicles that people are selling all their swag. Normally, it is an absolute cramped sardine pack of people that just move as a unit down these halls. You can't go where you want to go. You just kind of merge into this solid mass of humanity and just go with the flow. That's a normal Gen Con. And this felt like kind of a normal convention. There was lots of space and you could walk where you wanted. It didn't feel like a crowd. On top of that, everybody was very good at Gen Con. The masks were being worn. Nobody was giving any grief about masks or anything like that, and I felt reasonably safe. It felt good. I was nervous about going to a convention that large during these the end times, and but it was a really good experience. I will tell you that Gen Con is normally the center of the universe for US game releases. Normally, every company who makes a game makes them on purpose so that they're done and released at Gen Con. And the whole year cycles around Gen Con. But having a year and a half of pandemic, what happened was most of the companies just started releasing games whenever they were ready and just sputtered them out all year long. So at Gen Con 2021, there were almost no new releases.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
hear much of any of them. And so, I mean, I just, well, as a newsman, is that better or worse for you? Because you always have something
yeah,
to talk about, but you don't have the Gen Con special 47,000 games in 30 minutes. You don't have that.
that that definitely was lacking, and I think I probably would have liked to have a lot of new exciting things. Normally at Gen Con, we hear what's coming. We know, oh, there's all these new things and they're going to be released at Gen Con. A couple companies stay secret. The Fantasy Flight Games is kind of famous for staying secret until the last second and saying, surprise, we have a brand new game and here's 500 of them. Buy them.
Or surprise, Asmodee is taking another one of our properties away.
Maybe.
Is,
Although
it, is,
now
it, is that too soon? Is that too
it's
soon
a
for that joke?
little too soon. But now some of the properties are now leaving Asmodee, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, that
Uh,
whole thing, I'm hoping we get a special report on that whole thing from you at some point. It's fascinating. It is fascinating. And are you planning to buy Asmodee because it's for sale?
I went through my couch cushions. I started, calling banks, and they would hang up on me. But I think I'm a little short right now. The asking price is 2 billion euros,
And you only
and
got to like 1.2,
well,
1.3.
even with the conversion rates, I'm short. So if you'd like to loan me some money,
That's
uh,
what's a billion euro between friends, right?
just an extra billion euro here and there, I could probably buy something exciting.
Yeah, right. You could buy all of Kingdom Death Monster
Well,
almost.
most, not
Yeah.
the old stuff. The old stuff is still too expensive.
But so you mentioned a little bit about the pre-pandemic vibe. So I want to kind
Yeah.
of break this down to the kind of the pre-pandemic and then during pandemic convention going. What was your favorite thing about going to conventions in the
Wow.
before times? And so now I haven't been to nearly as many as you have.
In the before
Um,
four.
yes, the before, but for me, I never went to Gen Con. I was supposed to go last year the first time, then canceled.
Mm,
But I really, really enjoy seeing the demos at the different
mm,
booths, but just being able to walk around, like that looks cool, and then walking over and then learning. So one of my favorite games over the past few years is a Vast Mysterious Manor. That's how I
yeah,
played it. I was at Origins, and they said it was Marshall Britt. He was like, "Sit down and play." I was like, "Yes, sir."
and that is a
And
hard one to learn.
oh boy,
Such a good
howdy,
game. It is one of my favorites.
it's
But
it's yeah, it's one of my tops. I think I had it the number two on my underappreciated games list.
it's so good.
It's just,
And now
but
there's 100 versions of
it
it.
is just, boy, it is impenetrable to teach that thing the first time.
I don't
But
think I've ever played it 100% correctly.
oh well, why would you do that?
That's just
Yeah, well, it's funny. My wife said the same thing. So we played through. My wife actually played with us almost all of them, all the way
oh,
through
cool.
Gloomhaven, whole thing. And then we finally finished. 2 years.
Wow.
She said, "I don't." She said, "You know that we never played that game without you having to stop and discuss. Wait, is this the rule? Is that the rule? Wait, let's look it up."
Those movement rules are usually a little tricky.
Yep,
How
the
do the
whole
bad guys go now?
yeah, all the way through. We never once did we do it. But I'm okay with that. But that's the most exciting thing to me. And then even
Yeah.
better is when I would get and when I'd be in there a little bit early for the press. Sometimes in some place gets going a little bit early when someone
Yeah.
just grabbed me and say, "Hey, come see this thing." and it would just be a blast. I don't know if you know about Fight in a Box games. Um, they're
Yeah,
a smaller publisher. They do these far left of center, wacky, tongue-in-cheek, weird games, and I say that lovingly. Weird games. Like the most recent was a game called
sure.
Mouse, Cheese, Cat, Cucumber. Like I mean,
Yep,
that's
I've been getting PR press releases from them.
yeah, that is a fun game. Check it out.
Cool.
But when I walked through and then Seppi Yoon, he runs it, he's like, you're press. I was like, yeah. He's like, come here. You want to take this game? I was like, yeah. You want to play it first? Yes.
I
But
did. Yeah, I did press badge at Kubla Khan. It was a
yeah,
lot like that.
but it was great because that game was fun, but I got to meet the people.
Yeah,
And like Seppi Yoon is a great guy. I have a great now I have this relationship and talking, but those kind of experiences I just love. And then of course playing all the games and then that cry the big
yeah.
gamer hall, people like hold up the thing, I need someone to play this game. You're like, I can save you, you know? Those
I've got
were my
kind of
favorites.
two separate gaming experiences that I really liked before pandemic. Certainly learning about the new games, going to the exhibitors, talking to the designers, talking to the publishers, getting little backroom peeks. Love it. Absolutely am thrilled by that. I have to say, I'm not super excited about the demos usually. I will watch the demos and look at the pieces, but that environment of just a swarm of people around me, I can't focus and play. So I don't
Mhm.
usually play games at that sort of convention. So Gen Con, Essen, and Gamma were uh, fantastic conventions for me to go to learn the new stuff and make connections and meet people. Like you said, like you met Seppi. I got to meet a lot of the designers over the years and got to be really good friends with them. I
And I will
actually,
say for
yeah.
everybody out there, it's amazing how cool most of these people are.
Oh,
You
yeah.
you just walk up and talk to them, like or whatever it is. So I'm now buddies with Johnny Pack
Johnny's
simply
amazing.
it's simply because I didn't know he was any kind of a deal, and I sent him a message on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, can I check out this game you're doing?" He was like, "Okay." Like, you know?
He's so easygoing, and Johnny is a character. He is hysterical. So, in case you didn't know, Johnny lives in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
There's a little town in the mountains by Tahoe called Placerville. He lives outside of town.
Yeah.
There's a 30-minute drive on one-way roads across wooden rickety bridges that shake when your car goes across them. And then you enter what looks like a 1970s summer camp. It's log cabins, a whole bunch of them, and he lives in those. And inside is all decorated like 1970s. It's all
Yeah.
Afghans and orange and lava lamps, and it's just the coolest experience. He's such a friendly guy. It's fantastic.
Yeah, he actually, and I got my copy of Coloma right before everything shut down. And that's a game
Ah,
that's best with
yeah.
more people.
Oh
But my
yeah.
wife and I took just we're getting away. We're like, we'll get it because I love being in the woods. Like I'm
Sure.
not necessarily, we like camping, but just I don't want to go to the beach. Give me a cabin in the woods.
There you go.
And so, I was having this hard time at school. So I said, you know what? We're going to take the week. We're going to get a cabin somewhere out there. And I didn't realize it was right near where he was. And so I was like, yeah, you're out here. And so we met in Coloma and
That's
he taught me
fantastic.
Coloma.
He's really into that.
Yeah, which was super cool, super cool. But boy, we have digressed. But that's okay. The point being, yes, meeting these people, which you just wouldn't meet.
No,
Yeah.
no. And Gamma was really fantastic for that for me. But then there's a whole other kind of convention, which is the Dice Tower conventions for me mostly. Dice Tower East in Orlando, Dice Tower West in Vegas, the Retreat and the Cruise.
So, are you saying that
Those
I should come to Dice Tower West? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think you should.
Because
Those
you would be
conventions,
the
they are
second
about
person.
playing.
Yep, you're the second person
Yeah.
to pitch me on that real hard.
It's a really good convention for just playing games. And a lot of designers show up with their new games, with their new hotness. The last time I was at West, Emerson Matsuuchi started played with me 3 of his prototypes, which were amazing. And John D. Clare was there with Dead Reckoning. Numerous designers just having fun, and it's all about playing the games.
Yeah.
So
And I'm a big fan of I felt that's mostly what Origins was when I went,
mm,
and that convention that we were at just briefly, the small one, like I just went there to
yeah,
play games. I went and played games, and that particular convention we were at has a very large proto spiel, which is just people
which
really
is
getting.
really fun. And that Protospiel room was filled with designers.
Yep. I mean, there was
So
Luke Laurie was there
yeah,
testing out the next one that he's the
Andromeda.
yep Edge of Andromeda, which
Yeah.
it's funny. So they played I think 5 games that weekend. The one I played, we played like wow, I was like that was pretty good. Like this seems
Luke
close.
Laurie's really up and comer. He's got a lot of really hot games.
Every other game they played, just we just landed it. So they're working on it, but
Yeah.
like that's cool. Like Dwellings
And
of Eldervale was there. You know,
oh, sure. Yeah.
like all these stuff that
And
you just get
Peter
to try
Vaughn
out.
was there, who was Breaking Games at the time, pushing Dwellings of Eldervale. Now he's with Alchemy,
Yep,
Cardboard
Cardboard
Alchemy,
Alchemy.
and
Boy,
he's
did they
doing.
hit it big on Flamecraft.
And I got to play Flamecraft. It is so good. I have such a
Yep.
good time with that game. And Peter's just an amazing guy. Scott Caputo was there.
Yep.
He's Whistle Mountain, a Whistle Stop,
Sorcerer City, 100
Sorcerer
Tory.
City.
Yeah.
He's the tile laying dude.
Yep. That's funny. Yeah. It's, if I'm thinking like, if I needed to make a tile laying game, he's one of the guys I call. I mean, he's truly a master of it.
Yeah, he's so neat. And I got to do an interview with Scott Caputo. He was one of my first ones. We went to breakfast in Campbell.
Ooh.
It was
Where'd you
really
go?
good.
Because I'm right down the street.
I don't remember the name of the place. It was right on a corner. It was a great little breakfast place.
Well, now I'll never have a great little breakfast, I guess.
You'll never know what it is unless you go to Dice Tower Edition, read my
Oh
interview
yeah,
with Scott Caputo, because it is on the internet. And the
that's
internet
right.
is forever.
There is a way to find out.
Yeah, I think he was my second interview.
Yeah.
I think John D. Clare was my first.
Well, that's a big first jump in there.
It was weird. I aimed high. I only asked a lot of the very top designers, and they were all super nice. So Matt Leacock was one of the first ones. Was super nice. I've done 25 now. So you actually mentioned. I think that I did 2 at Gen Con, 2 dinners, and you've mentioned both games.
Oh, which which two?
I had a lunch with Isaac Childress, and I had a dinner with Christian Peterson.
Oh, wow. Which one
So
was better?
they were very different.
The
Very
meal,
different.
the meal. I wouldn't make you pick
I'm
between your
talking about the
children like
meal
that.
because it was with Isaac. It was comfort food. It was a lunch. It was light. It was just comforting. And with Christian, we went to like a fancy steakhouse. So just a very different kind of meal.
Which, I guess makes sense. Very different type of game. The game designer, right? Now that would be something interesting if you go through and see if you can track a pattern of what kind of designer likes what kind of food. So if
Well, I can tell you, Johnny Pack wanted to go to In-N-Out Burger,
I'm
and
not remotely
Rob
surprised.
Davia wanted to go to a Michelin 5-star restaurant.
To be fair, if you're going to take me to a Michelin 5-star restaurant, I will design a game right now. Like, right now. Come pick me up. It'll be done by the time you get here.
Hey, come to Santa Rosa. I'll take you to a 5-star restaurant.
The sound. Oh boy, that'd be great. I've totally. So last thing that just kind of tossed us. So I don't have the breadth of experience of this that you did, but pre-pandemic,
I
what
think
were
you're
your
overestimating me.
well? No, I've only actually been to about 5 different conventions. So and
Okay.
only 3 different named ones, and most of them were tiny little locals. But this year, PAX U this year, it's my big one this year.
Yeah.
But which ones are your favorites, and what about? I'll just make it laser down. Each one of those. What is the
Wow.
one thing that each one of those just crushed it?
I'm going to give a waffly answer. Gamma, I absolutely love because it is just networking, people, and news you're not allowed to talk about. Essen, I love because it is an enormous shopping mall. You can buy every game, and in the booth right next to where they sell that game, they're selling beer or pastries.
Ooh, you're pitching me on this, but how do you get them back?
You bring a lot of nested suitcases, or they actually have a UPS store right in the convention center, and you can pay a lot of money to have them shipped back.
I'll say that UPS store has never made more money
Ever.
when that thing comes
Now,
in.
Dice Tower East, really fun convention because it's all about playing games nonstop. And there's a lot to buy and a lot of designers to meet, but you are playing games nonstop. Gen Con's terrible.
Well, you know what? Then I'm glad that's not my big one because I was because I had a great time at Origins when I went. I
Yeah,
truly had a great time, and I thought, well, you know what? If I'm gonna be in the media, I gotta go to Gen Con. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And then I get canceled, and
that's
then
where all the business happens. So it's kind of an
yeah,
obligation.
yeah. So I'm sure I will go eventually. And I'm sure I'll have fun.
Yeah.
I will have
PAX,
fun.
I think PAX is really up and rising. It is a really fun convention.
That's
They
what I've
do
been
it
told.
well.
Yeah. So I'm very. Are you coming to that one this year?
No, I think I might be done for a while.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, it's in December. That's a while.
The next one, I think I'm going on the Dice Tower cruise in February, and there's one other right around there. Another Dice Tower West.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, if there's a month, there must be a Dice Tower convention somewhere.
Somewhere they do a lot of little gatherings.
Yeah, the I think yeah, so I'm definitely going to PAX, and I'm what is the one in San Francisco? Is that
Kubla
KublaCon?
Khan, that's the largest convention in California.
Yeah, and I think we're finally going to try to go to that one because I've done all the Pacificon, the Celesticon,
I
the
think,
DundraCon.
and the thing is, there was a little kind of turf war going on between all the Bay Area conventions.
It was
It
really weird.
was, and they started splitting and doubling, and they started dropping out, and one would buy the other, and so who knew what was going on between Celesticon, Pacificon, and all the San Jose area ones.
Yeah, can we
But
can we get a CoreyCon down here?
there actually is a CoreyCon.
Is that at the your villa?
Yeah, it's invite.
That's right. Well, I'm
I can
trying.
only hold about 30 people.
Yeah. So I don't know if you met Don Gilstrap.
Yeah, I've met him briefly.
Yeah, so he
I don't know him
designed
well.
one of the designers on Backyard Chickens, which you
Mhm.
guys actually talked about. Or I guess is it your daughter that does the
Yeah,
yeah? So your daughter talked about. But Peter Vaughn and I have been pushing him for DonCon for
that's
one because
awesome.
it sounds great, but he has all of the games. Like I'm always nervous for him on Tuesday because I follow people on Kickstarter and so like I get all the emails. Don Gilstrap is back. Don Gilstrap is back. That is the
I've
funniest thing if you follow enough people on Kickstarter because
Yeah.
Tuesday rolls around and your inbox just explodes. But for you, that's how you track what you
I
want to talk about.
I keep quiet on what I back and what I don't. I don't put it up. But I've got a library right now of about 2,500 to 3,000
Wow,
games.
that is.
So
I think I would feel bad because I know I'm not going to play all of those.
it's the old problem we had with when MP3 players were getting bigger and bigger. It's you actually do the math and figure out that if you played them back to back for the whole rest of your life, you would not reach a tenth of them.
Oh man, that's depressing. Yeah, so I try to keep. I mean, don't have a very big place, but I try to keep it contained right here behind me. I got another bookshelf over there, and I got a trunk that's full of the stuff that I don't play a lot, but every once in a while, I love it.
There you
And
go.
if I can contain it there, I'm good. Which is why my recent present to myself of 3 of these boxes is
That's huge.
yeah. I'm hoping I can throw away the insert and just do some condensing. And I have a couple games
Yeah,
that I've
I
sold
do that.
recently, but it's bad. But we are from the point back to now
Oh,
conventions,
now
the
conventions.
now convention. So again, I've only done the one, and so I've only attended Pacificon in the new convention. And I'll say I was very pleasantly surprised with how it was run. and just with my own personal comfort, they were requiring vaccination and staying masked, and only twice did I see someone with their mask off, and they were immediately said, "Would you put that back on?" And whoop, they did. No arguing, no fighting. There was space between the tables. I played so very many games, stayed real late into the night,
Cool.
and I was really, really pleased with it. Of course, that's a small con, and
Well,
now
and I had that feeling at Gen Con as well. It felt really good. People were following the rules, and there were a lot of people there behaving well. So that's a really hopeful thing for
yeah,
conventions in
and
pandemic.
I feel like, in general, us game nerds know how to behave. We can do it. All right, don't tell me how to play my turn. But if for me to play my turn means this is the rule, we can follow rules. And so, I'm hopeful.
Yeah. And to take it even one step further, I did get a scare at one point. I got a text message from someone I played a game with saying that they had tested positive. And it turns out it was a false positive, but still, that communication was there. People were open about, you should know. And after I was done with all of these conventions in a row, I quarantined and I tested and everything was good. But I really appreciated that people were reaching out and just saying, "Hey, this is what's going on."
And then what a great environment that clearly the cons created to where they felt like they could do that. Because I mean, how many things in life is like, if you test positive for something, it's like maybe I'm just gonna keep that to myself, you know. But the
That's
lack
true.
of shame about it is just fantastic.
Yeah, and I definitely never felt shamed about wearing a mask. And I'll be honest, I mean, we live in California. We tend to be one of the more liberal areas, and we take it probably more seriously than the rest of the country does. So we're on that extreme. And I was traveling to Florida and to Indiana, which are kind of known for being the other way. And I was a little nervous, but I did not experience any problems at all. Everybody was super nice.
Yeah, and I will say, because you go going into Florida, that's really a feather in the cap of whoever runs Dice Tower Retreat, whoever's actually in charge of that. That's how it went, because you're in the region that it could have been tougher. And so, I don't know who it was, but that's fantastic that you can be in a place where it's harder to be masking and those kinds of things without that pushback, and that it happened. That's awesome.
Yeah. And actually, I had planned on going to a whole bunch more conventions, but I got a little nervous about traveling so much and going to so many different places and wondering, what am I going to bring back? And I did enough quarantining after these 3 trips. I just decided I ended up canceling my Essen trip. That was sounding more and more scary.
Yeah,
So
your suitcases. Thank you for. Yeah, but
they would be kind of heavy.
moving forward, though,
Yeah.
as hopefully in the next 6 months, 7 months, you know, perhaps we get more of a handle on things. Crossing these fingers hard. Do you think that your convention attending has changed forever? Or do you think you'll wind up going back towards what you did before and just kind of hitting up all the conventions and going hard, or what?
I think I'm probably going to backlash and I'm going to go to a lot of conventions once I feel more secure about the world. Essen is one of my very favorite conventions, and there's a lot of people I run into in Essen that I never see otherwise. It's really far away. and
I mean, it's
I mean,
really far. That's 9,000 miles.
that's pretty far. And I have all of these friends now through working board game journalism and through even playtesting online during the convention. I know so many people over there, and I'm dying to just go see them. So it really was devastating to me that I wasn't going to Essen. So I'm probably going to backlash, and next year I'll probably go to every single convention.
Yeah, you just gotta buy yourself a camper van and just
That's
drive around.
Can I camper van over to Germany? It sounds difficult.
Well, you just get one of those easily available containers and put it on a
Yes,
ship, right?
that's probably a good idea. I could do that.
And so the last thing I was about conventions is, so you mentioned digital playtesting, which I think the
Yeah.
best thing to come out of for board game playing has been how many more people have learned the tools to do digital playtesting. I don't
Oh
like it
yeah,
as much, but the fact that I can now play games with my brother in Colorado easily,
yeah,
and when I'm getting a Kickstarter preview copy will come in, more often than not, it'll be in the mail and say, "Hey, this is showing up next week. Can we get on Tabletop Simulator and you teach me?" And I love it. That's fantastic. I haven't
yeah.
done any digital conventions because as a teacher, I was on Zoom all the time for a year, so I'm a
And
little
see, I
hesitant.
I did a bunch of the digital conventions at the beginning of the pandemic. So I was at Gamma in, I guess it's 2019 now. And that's for me, right when the pandemic started. At the beginning of Gamma, things seemed normal. During the 4 days of Gamma, half of the companies left and disappeared.
Mm.
And at the end of Gamma, it was bad enough that at one point, half of the room's cell phones all went off. And it turns out every person from Europe was told that all of their flights had been canceled and they didn't know if they were getting home. So Gamma went from almost normal to really devastatingly scary inside of 4 days.
Wow.
So that was a real beginning for me. But right after that, there were a bunch of conventions that got canceled. We were betting at Gamma. We were betting whether Origins would cancel, whether Gen Con would cancel, whether Essen would cancel. They all did. And so I went to a lot of those digital conventions. Sorry, I took a big loop around, but they were early. Nobody really knew what they were doing, and a lot of these digital things just did not work. I remember the Gen Con opening ceremonies crashed. They didn't really, you couldn't see much. And so I was really disappointed with digital conventions. And I'm not I don't love playing games online in general. I think it was a great proof of concept that you can do it. Everybody had to out of necessity, and I think it's an enormous tool for the designers and developers. And I've been on tons of playtests online, but given the choice, 10 times out of 10, I want a physical copy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I like the option. Yeah, so but I don't really want to go to a digital convention.
Yeah.
Um, I will happily play with people.
That's
I
the
play.
other thing that
Yeah,
kind of came out of all of it was I think a lot of the convention organizers were trying to figure out, is my convention really just a place to announce things? Because if it is, I can just do that on YouTube.
mhm.
So how much of my convention is not something I can just make a video of? So there was a big reorganization. I think we're going to get better physical conventions in the future because of what they had to decide and go back and forth on.
Oh yeah, boy, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Oh gosh, better convention. I love this idea. So last thing, last thing is, and I'll jump in first on this because I see your list and you got a longer list than I do, and that's
Uh-oh.
because you went to more conventions. We're gonna talk about the most exciting game that you've played at a con this year, and so I'm gonna jump in with
Okay,
two.
go for it.
First is Edge of Andromeda or Andromeda's Edge. I keep doing
Yeah,
that. Peter Vaughn's gonna be so mad if he listens to this, but it's
I'll tell him.
from you. Yes, you're probably texting him right now. He said, "Who is this?"
Hey, Peter.
But it's kind of a spiritual successor to Dwellings of Eldervale. It's space, Luke
Yeah,
Laurie, and the game that I played was popping. Now they've got lots of work to do. It's an early prototype at the Protospiel, but it takes all those great things about Dwellings of Eldervale that you're doing, the putting the workers out, and then you activate them when you come back. But it adds a more significant, at least in the version I played, tableau building to it, which the actions you're able to do, which was just really cool. And I got
yeah.
dead last. I mean, I lost by like 50 points,
That's
you
okay. I
know.
tend to not win.
But man, that was really exciting. The other one was from Dead Alive Games, and you might get interested about this with your
Yeah.
interest in dungeon crawls. And so the game that they have that's finally coming out is right here is oof, Omicron Protocol, which is a
Oh, yeah.
skirmish miniatures game. But this is the lore book, and if you're just listening, I'm holding up basically a science textbook like that.
That's a Yeah, that's a
Like,
big old yearbook there.
yeah, and so they are taking the core mechanics of their skirmish game, which I like a lot, and they're turning it into a dungeon crawl using the
Nice.
same characters and those same base mechanics and some new stuff. And I got to play the early test of that, and that's going to be called Shadows over San Lazaro, which that was also really fun. So
Very
those are the two
cool.
most exciting ones that I played. And now for your 37 cons, if you can limit it to only 30 games that are you're most excited about, what do you got?
Ah. Uh, I'm going to go more towards games that are going to be available within days, not years. So I got to play Paleo, which I thought was a fantastic game. This is the Spiel des Jahres winner from this year. It's a cooperative game. It's a little difficult to describe because you learn it as you play it. Basically, everybody is a prehistoric, pre-civilization person, and you are playing cards, guessing what they're going to be by the backs of the cards. So you might have a back of a card that has a big, mean-looking monster on it, that has a saber-toothed tiger on it, or a card that has a nice little stream,
Just a
maybe
misunderstood monster. It's a
misunderstood monster. So I pick the one with the little stream on the back and flip it over, and it might go monster, but probably it'll just be a stream. And everybody looks at theirs, and if someone at the table has one that has a big mean monster, you can usually ditch your card to go help them and add more spears or more symbols on your tableau to help them out by foregoing your card. And you need to go through this deck of cards, some good, some bad, and meet some requirement at the end. You have to build a certain number of tents with a certain number of people, and then you win that level. And then you do another one. So it's a great cooperative game with some mystery in there, a little exploration, and it's just got fantastic player cooperation in it.
Yeah, I
So
got to play it with Michael Kelly from One Stop Co-op Shop.
nice.
He lives in Maryland. That's where my family lives, and I was back there briefly this summer, and so I just drove
Oh,
out.
cool.
Got to play with him, and he's real high on it. So we sat down. We played it once on the
Liked
easy
it a
thing,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, and then he's like, okay. And he took out one of the hardest little packs that you mix in because you mixed two different decks together to make your
Right.
story, and then he's like, and he had a second hard pack. He looked at me. He was like, I don't think you're actually good at games. So let me put this one away and shuffle it to like a medium one. But it really is that is a fun game that
It
just
was, and it just kind of intuitively flowed without a whole bunch of rules.
yeah,
It was interesting in that way.
it doesn't seem like if you sit down and read the rules, and even I watched a playthrough because Michael Keller was going on about it. I was like, hey, it looks fine. This sounds fine. But it plays better than it looks. And that's a
It
weird thing
does.
to say, but it really does.
And the rules try really hard to not give anything away. So you read the rules and you think, these have told me nothing about how to play this game. Because they want you to just experience it. And I liked it a lot. The other one that was a big hit at all these cons was So Clover. I don't know if you like party game kind of things, but So
So sometimes,
Clover's
well,
a word
often
game.
I'll take them in, and well, less now, but I'll play them with my sixth grade students on advisory day, or if they've been doing like they
Sure.
love Just One.
And this
I'm
feels like Just One or Code Names or something like that. It's a wonderful word game, and it's all based so perfectly on the physical nature of the components. I don't know if you've seen it, but they're large plastic four-leaf clovers with pegs in the middle that fit cards. The cards are square cards with holes in the middle, and they actually slot onto these big plastic clovers. So you slot four cards in a little 2x2 grid in the middle of your clover. And what it ends up being is you'll have two words aimed at each leaf of the four leaf clover. And you need to write a clue on the actual plastic clover for each pair of words. Then you dump the cards out, and other players at the table have to try to reassemble where your cards were.
oh yeah, I got you. Oh, I'm gonna have to get that. My
And
wife's gonna love
it's
that.
co-op and it's wonderful and it's easy to get. It's out now. Paleo is out now but impossible to get. But So Clover is actually easy to get and really fun. Had a good time with it.
And I see you got a couple more here. Well, one we've talked about a bit already. So
Return to Dark
you get
Tower.
Return to Dark Tower on there.
That was so cool. It runs off of an app, and the app drives the tower. So it's a cooperative game, the one that we played, and you're collecting resources and going on quests and missions and moving around the board and fighting bad guys and all this stuff. But most of the challenges you're doing run on this app, and the app shows you a virtual deck of cards, and you need to get through a certain number of them to defeat the monster. You might need to go through 5 of the cards, and they're horrible. They just do terrible things to you. And you can skip cards by special abilities or pay off cards with warriors or whatever. But then the app will run the tower, and the tower will spin and point to different parts of the board. And it's a cube tower, so it'll spit out skulls that go all over the board. Little windows will open up and they'll light up and they'll tell you something terrible's going on. And it was great. It's just made me feel both nostalgically happy, and it was a really fun cooperative game. Had a good time with it.
And now in your 2,500 games, do you still have a copy of the original Dark Tower?
I don't. Mine suffered from the all too common melting of the D batteries. So all the battery just leaked out and destroyed it.
Did not know that was a thing. Now I'm gonna have to ask my buddy if
They're worth quite a bit now, because there was a lawsuit over the game. I don't know if you know this, but it came out in '82, I believe, Christmas.
I was
one
1
Christmas
year old.
season. I don't want to hear this. So
Well, I'm about to turn 40 in a couple weeks, so that's
so back in the '80s, we had games.
Oh, and it was like on your phone, right? You had to use your phone for the game?
Yeah, but they were rotary, so it was harder to play. They were slow. But the game came out one Christmas season, and then a couple designers showed up at Milton Bradley and said that they had pitched it and were denied, and Milton Bradley had stolen it. So a big lawsuit commenced. During the lawsuit, they pulled the game and stopped selling it. And it ended up, I believe, that Milton Bradley actually won the lawsuit, but they never brought the game back. It had missed its season and it was gone. So it came out for just this short season and then just disappeared.
And somehow has captured the nostalgia of everybody.
Well, I have to tell you, that Christmas season, every kid I knew either was on the bandwagon to get Return to Dark Tower, or not Return, the original Dark Tower, or was on the bandwagon for Electronic Dungeons and Dragons, which looked really cool.
And now, did you get both?
I got just Dungeons and Dragons, and it was terrible. It was the worst game ever. My friends got Dark Tower, and it was much cooler. I ended up getting Dark Tower later, but like I said, the batteries melted.
That's sad, but that is hilarious. Okay, so if everybody, if you've been listening to every single episode the past 4 weeks, you're familiar with the infomercial coming up. But thank you to our sponsor, Sovereignty Digital Game Platform, and go. And now, a word from our sponsor. Are you tired of getting set for your digital game night and finding out you just don't know how to work the program? You do everything you can think of. You struggle. You give it your best, yet at the end of the day, it's just hopeless. You feel like you'll never be able to digitally game again. But don't worry. There is a solution. With the Sovereignty Digital Gaming Platform, it's no trouble at all to almost immediately get right into the game and play with all of your friends. No fuss, no muss, no figuring out what keys do what. Just pure fun. You can find more information about Sovereignty in the description of this podcast or video. And we're back! It felt like 8 minutes for us, but
It's been forever. I missed you. It was lonely on this side.
You should have shaved and then come back and.
I thought about it. Yeah, this is just laziness.
Well, I don't know. That's a lot of lazy. It's a long,
It's
it's a
been
long time.
years that I've been lazy. I've perfected the art of being lazy. Apathy and laziness are really my strong suits. It's on my resume if I ever write it.
Oh, there you go. You beat me to that crack. You beat me. That's that's wisdom that got you there before I did. Not my natural athleticism.
There you go. That's the white. It meets wisdom.
Well, I'm getting it. I'm getting it right here. When this comes in, it gets white, white, white. You got a couple grays in there.
One or two.
You can probably pluck them still.
Oh God, that hurts.
Just big old handfuls.
Just rip it all out.
All right, but so the game we're talking about today, and Kim Breback is going to lose his mind because this is the second Good Games publishing game that I've talked about. When the person I'm talking about on the podcast has not actually played it yet.
I haven't. I'm dying to hear about it.
But
I mean, I read about it. You made it sound cool.
Yeah, boy. But so Land vs. Sea, which had a soft release at Gen Con. So there are copies out in the world that you could get there, but it's this week. Sometime this week is when it goes from being pre-orderable to actually order it. And I actually have my review is actually coming out tomorrow, so I hope that times up perfectly. But so what it is, and I talked briefly at the beginning about it, but so you're putting down the tiles and you're choosing the orientation and you're connecting the land to the land and the water to the water, but they're hex tiles. So as you build this island out or map out more and more, it becomes harder and harder to find a place to put the tiles because it's all going to match up perfectly. And as you're playing through, ostensibly you're trying to make land for the land player, sea for the sea player, but then there's all these other scoring layers that get thrown in there. So if you start connecting coral in the water to each other, you're going to be getting points. If you connect the mountains to the mountains on the land, you'll be getting points. If you connect the caravans, which can be a boat, then a wagon, then a wagon, then a boat, then whatever it is, that'll be in-game scoring for whoever's dominating that caravan. So there's 5. If you got 3 land, the land player is going to get the 5 points. And then there's also these little tiny pluses on some of the tiles, which means, if they'll be worth extra points. If there's 2 pluses on the land and it would be 3 points, it's now a 5-point land. If you, the land player, complete that island. But if the sea player completes that island, the land player will still get the points for the island, but the sea player gets the points for the pluses. So it sometimes behooves you to help the other player by finishing their land or their sea because you're going to steal all those points from them.
Oh, I like that.
And if that's not enough, then you have the third asymmetric player, which is the cartographer, which then anytime anybody does mountains or coral, the cartographer gets the points. Always. And so now the land and sea players say, do I really want to put that down there? It helps me, but I don't want to give Corey any points. That hurts my soul. And then they also dominate, or they get the points for the caravans if they're equal. So so now you want to have a 6 caravan or 6-thing caravan, but you want 3 boats and 3 wagons because now neither of those fools get the points. Now you get the points. So that's kind of the game that the cartographer's playing, is trying to get these caravans to work out in their favor. And at the same time, making it harder and harder and harder for the other 2 players to close off their sea or close off their land. And so that's the game. And it's very, I'm reaching behind me. If you're just listening, just imagine it's a small box game, very small. And it says it publishes itself as being able to learn the game in 2 minutes.
Wow.
Now that's not fully true because that doesn't give you all the scoring layers. But I'm confident, Corey, I could put this down in front of you and you could teach Tom Vassell how to play this game and play it based on that 4-minute description that I gave you. It's really light. It's really simple.
How cool.
But what makes it work the most is the art. It is this old-timey map, like really old-timey map looking thing. It's got stuff, these Easter eggs from history. Like apparently in old maps, if there were rabbit soldiers, that meant that was an area of chaos. I didn't know this thing. But so there's these rabbit soldiers riding snails on there. And there's somewhere else I played on Tabletop Simulator with Peter Vaughn just last night. And he stopped. He's like, everyone, hold on. Come look at the other side of my tile here. I'm going to show you this because there's a goat bending over with a trumpet on its butt, blowing the trumpet across the
I've
sea
seen some of these
to
pictures.
some cat leaping over the sea. And it's just insane. But as you look closer and closer at these tiles and the board, it's just gorgeous and it's funny. And there's apparently all kinds of other references in there. The designer was on or the publisher was on a podcast somewhere else, and he said there's time bandits things in there. So if you know
I
that,
dig
you
it.
find it. And so and there's also a 4-player variant, which is teams, which I haven't gotten to play that. It's teams, and they add a few more rules there too. But man, it's really fun and really fast. And I'm all about it. I tell you, if I had to pick my games of the year right now, and I have one more month because I make my nominations in November, it would be in that 5 or 6 games. I don't know if it's the
Cool.
best one, but it's great. It's just fantastic. And everyone, now I'm going to lose all my credibility here when I say
That's
this.
it. You're assuming you started with cred.
Truth.
Mhm.
But by having you on, I gained like 3 points. And I'm
Thank
about to
you.
lose it
Thank
because I'm
you.
going to say I've never played Carcassonne.
Okay.
I've never played it. It just,
Why am
I
I
got into
on
the
here
hobby about,
again? This
huh?
is why am I on here again? I should have
Because
vetted you first.
I asked, and
Oh,
you
that's
said,
right. That's
"Oh,
right.
someone wants to talk." Yes. Um, but to my credit, I came into the hobby, about 3 years ago, and that wasn't the hot stuff. So, but I have a copy. I got one. So someday I'll play it. But that's the comparison people make, and
Nice.
the difference becomes is the tiles are two-sided, which I guess they aren't in Carcassonne.
Right.
Um, and so you have a lot of options each time of what you're going to do. And you have the open information of the 2 tiles that you have out in front of you that everyone can see, but they don't know what's on the back. And there's a
Hmm.
couple ways that you can either play double tiles or steal someone's tile. And then it takes away some of their options. But there's all these options that you don't see until you're playing through the game. And then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, I have to stop and think. You get to the end of the game, and suddenly it gets real at the end of the game. Like everyone's just having fun, putting, oh, look how cool this looks. Oh, look, there's a goat with the butt trumpet. This is great. And then everyone's like, hold on, hold up, I got to figure this out.
It's probably my favorite of all the games with goat trumpet butts.
I had you at butt trumpet.
You had me at butt trumpet.
But so that's the game. I'm a big fan. It has, towards the end of the game, you can get a little bit of AP going if that's your jam, and you can play really mean, like you could. Just my whole goal in this game is to make your island never close. Um, but and the box is maybe bigger than it needs to be, and that's a small box. So I'm hoping that means expansion is coming. I don't know,
Wow.
but
Okay.
that's the only negative stuff that I can come up with for it. Like, I really like it. It's really fun.
That sounds great. And it's a first game from Jean-Paul Jacques, isn't it?
Yeah, and he did the art as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he did the whole
There's
shebang.
more and more of that coming out of these Renaissance people doing everything on the game. I'm seeing it more and more.
Yeah, I think
That's beautiful.
yeah, it's gosh, I just it's as soon as we're off, just look up some pictures of some of these things. Like, it's just of the tiles.
Actually, I looked at some of the pictures earlier in the week.
Yeah, it's just a really good games that I'm gonna do it.
Uh-oh.
They do good games. The Guildmaster, which they put out last year, was one of my
Right.
games of the year last year. Like, they aren't like everything else that I have.
Sure.
Guildmaster's unique on my shelf. This is half unique. I know I got Carcassonne up there. I'll play it someday. I'll come play at your villa.
Sure. Unfair is great.
Yeah,
And
I haven't played that one,
Monstrous.
but yeah.
Monstrous is good.
Oh, I don't know that one at all.
Oh, Monstrous, yeah. That's been around a while.
All right, but since we got to get your dulcet tones in here,
Oh no.
Land vs. Sea.
Okay.
I just gave you the hard pitch because I really like this one. Are you gonna go look for a copy?
You're assuming that I'm not already looking. There's one on the market on BGG right now that's been for
Oh,
sale
so
for
so
5
that is someone
days.
who got that at Gen Con.
I
You
know.
claim it, do it.
Well, you said it's coming available soon.
Yeah, I think it's this week. I know at the Good Games Publishing website they have a place for pre-order in America and pre-order,
I
I guess,
hear it.
Oceania.
I hear the release date is October 6th.
October is that's tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm on the pre-order side.
All right, so the people can get your take. So, what about it has you chomping at the bit to go click 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 and order that, other than impulse control?
I'm a big fan of Carcassonne. Um, Carcassonne is a really cool game. It's a classic, and tile laying has always been a soft spot for me. So I like that. And the idea of doing the tile laying with goofy art and butt trumpets. Come on, it's hard to beat that.
Is that's your name in quotes, Corey Butt Trumpet Thompson?
Not since the '90s, but yeah,
It was cool in the '90s. It
it
became, I
was.
promise.
It's a totally different meaning.
Corey, thank you for just coming on and just chatting with me. I know we're very free form here. I'm sure we're much more free form than Dice Tower now.
Oh no, no, you have my
That 30
super
minutes is
free
actually a
form
7-hour recording session.
at least.
Oh, how
So
are the olives? Not
this
poison?
is not poison.
So for
This
people
is I'm actually eating the very first of the olive crop as we speak because I figured olives would be the most appropriate thing to eat on camera because they're so clean and everything.
so for
Uh,
anybody who hasn't listened to Dice Tower Now's episode, uh,
that
Corey
was
made olives, and
yeah.
to make olives, you put them in poison.
You pretty much do. You put them in drain cleaner. You put them in lye. And so we picked at the Santa Rosa house, we picked 75 pounds of olives. I soaked them in lye for 12 hours, washed the lye out for a week, and now they're in a salt brine for 2 days. And I'm starting to try them. I think they need a little longer in salt, but they're pretty much not poison right now.
Well, and that's interesting because my wife and I were taking a walk just around here, and there was this one olive tree hanging over a fence,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my wife's like, "Well, it's over the fence." So she just pulled a couple and brought home and tried. I
Oh,
was like, and she's like,
no,
"This
no,
is gross."
no.
Like,
Olives off the tree are the most hideous thing you've ever tasted in your life.
we did well. I don't like olives anyway, but she did not know that, and now she does. We
That
didn't put them in
was
poison for long enough.
I grew up on the East Coast and came to California for college, and everybody would tell me that's an olive tree. You should just go eat them
Those
because they're
people are not
kind
friends.
people. No, 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 they're mean, mean people. One of them is my wife now, and she's still very mean.
We'll, we'll put up a little thing on top that says she's not really mean. Don't kick him out. Don't
You
don't
can
don't put
no.
lie back in his olives, please. But anyhow,
It's true.
thank you so much for coming on and joining me. And
No, thanks for
before,
having me on the show. This is really fun.
yeah,
I will take any excuse to just ramble on about games.
yeah, well, that's well. We'll hopefully we'll get to do a CoreyCon, and we'll do that sometime soonish. Um,
Absolutely.
but let's finish off. The
Ah,
last thing I have people do.
oh no. Do I have to
w-
dance or something?
Well, it depends on how much you don't want to answer the question. So either you have to dance or answer the question.
E-
So,
mm,
what are your words of gaming wisdom, whatever that means?
My words of gaming wisdom. Well, I'm gonna go since we had a convention episode. I'll put out some convention wisdom. If you're going
Conventional
to
wisdom, if you will.
conventional wisdom, yeah. If you're going to a big convention and you're nervous about it, I was told the best way to ease in is you either play a game you know with new people or a game you don't know with people you do know. Don't change both variables at once.
That's actually really good advice. Wow. Like, that may be the best usable bit of advice that anyone has dropped on one of these episodes before.
Wow.
Like, wow, that's great. But anyhow, there you have, folks. That is Corey Thompson of Dice Tower Now. As always, if you enjoyed it, add us on your podcast app. If you're watching the video, like, subscribe, share, all of those things. You will find a link to Dice Tower Now down in the description of however you are watching or listening to this. Make sure you go check that out. Go back a few episodes to hear about the poison. And thank you
Cool.
so thank you so much for watching. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks again. This was fun. I still remember one guy at Gen Con going around with a live stream of Gen Con, and we kept peeking over at his monitor screen, and the entire time it had viewers 0.
Oh,
It just hurt.
gosh, that's harsh. That's a lot of wandering around. That's a lot of data too. Like you got to pay for that. When I went to my first Origins, which was the last Origins before the world died. I had 60 subscribers and they were dumb enough to give me a press pass. And I was just like doom, 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 walking around. And my buddy Matt, I reference him a lot on the channel and podcast. He does a lot of if it's a heavy game, he's the one I played it with. But he went walking around, and there was a couple games he kind of wanted, didn't really want. He's like, "Well, I'm friends with the Hungry Gamer. You want to give me a discount?" And they're like, "Who? The Hungry Gamer? Don't you know?" Oh yeah, that's true. They have the secret, not so secret Skyrim thing that they're doing.
It's not Skyrim.
Oh, it's not.
It's Elder Scrolls. It's
Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. So I don't really know what it is. I don't have any inside info on it, but I suspect that it's the new Elder Scrolls game, and they're not going to announce anything until that's announced.
Right. Boy, the entire nerdverse collectively screamed when I said Skyrim, not Elder Scrolls. Let me tell you, they all went, "What?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought that on yourself. That's completely on you,
and I deserve it.
You do. You will be publicly flogged.
Fun fact: the Citadel primers, the Games Workshop primers,
right?
They just aren't shipping a lot of them. And so all the local stores, I'm calling, said, "So do you have any of this?" Like, yes, we do. We have the blood red. I was like, I don't need.
What am I going to prime blood red? Thank you.
I don't need that. Do you have any other color? Like, well, we got royal
Jet black.
Yeah. I was like, I don't. So I called like 3 of them. I finally found one, which is like a dark gray. I was like, well, I guess we're doing this. Let's find out. Barrett Dittler, he does Meet Me at the Table.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's another lovely human. If you don't know that human, you need to.
Just from his stuff, I don't know him at all.
Yeah, but he's a great painter. So I sent him a message like, is this a horrible idea? He's like, I don't know. I've never been brave enough to try it.
I am never a goober. I'm serious to the end.
I have listened to your last 2 episodes, buddy. You take that lie back.
So you know that I'm a goober.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.